Hello everyone, I'm Doug. Welcome to Class of 90 Retro. This is video number 2 for me. Video number 1 was a walkthrough of my 8-bit retro computer collection. I didn't intend on making a video number 2, but I received some really positive feedback on that first one, and I thought if I could get to 1,000 views, I'd make another one. And I did. I got to pretty much exactly 1,000 views. So here's video number 2. Today we're going to talk about Apple controllers and ways to play Apple IIe, IIc, 2GS video games with a joystick. I have one of these, which is an Apple II joystick, 2-button controller, analog, pretty classic. Great for games that are really analog joystick friendly, like Choplifter. Not so good on games that aren't, such as Bruce Lee, such as Lode Runner. Games where that D-pad that just didn't exist in 1982 would have come in really handy. But hey, it's 2023. We have options. Now, one of the options that we have, still authentic Apple controller, is the Epyx 500XJ. So I love Epyx 500XJ controllers. This happens to be the Apple II variant of it. Still has a wide throw analog controller, analog joystick, 2 buttons of course. It's got a little switch here to turn off the centering on the controller, on the joystick, which is actually quite handy for a game like Choplifter. But otherwise it's still pretty traditional. And we're going to try playing with both of them on a couple of different kinds of games, Choplifter and Lode Runner, maybe Bruce Lee as well, just to kind of show off the strengths and weaknesses. But what other options exist? I'm going to show off a couple of adapters today. One of them allows you to use IBM joysticks, 15-pin joysticks. It's a pretty simple adapter, converts the potentiometer voltage, and allows you to use, for instance, the classic Gravis controller, both the joystick and actually the Gravis directional pad, which is more or less an analog controller and a digital package. It looked digital, but really behind the scenes it was just sending the full maximum range in any given direction in 8 directions, and really nothing but that. So that's one thing we're going to look at today, is an adapter to go from IBM to Apple, but we're also going to look at an adapter that allows you to plug in a wide range of joysticks. Interestingly enough, not IBM, but a lot of others. PlayStation 1, Atari, for what it's worth. You lose a joystick button, so it's not the greatest idea. Sega Genesis, though, it's also a 9-pin controller, and it has a lot more buttons. And interestingly enough, a Super Nintendo controller as well. So a couple of adapters, a few original joysticks we're going to look at, and again, I'm going to throw 2 or 3 games at these, Lode Runner, Bruce Lee, and Choplifter. All right, let's get to it. All right, so here we have Choplifter. I'm going to attempt to fly my first sortie, and we can see that there is a little bit of, well, the chopper is supposed to fall like that. I don't really remember if it's supposed to fall that quickly. Well, let's give that a shot though. So now this button will fire, this button will switch our directions, and we can see that if we move slowly, we'll go slowly, and if we move fast, we'll go fast, and of course we'll shoot at a downward angle as well. So this works pretty well. It's pretty sensitive. It's really well designed for this game. Come on. Get to the chopper! Whoop. All right, let's try this again with the Epyx joystick. Now, by the way, what I've done to make it a little more simple to change joysticks, given where my 2GS is squirreled away in a cabinet, is to run a straight-through DB9 extension cable. It's just a 2-footer, but you could get a 6-foot or longer cable if you needed, and then you can have the joystick cable kind of run around to the front of the computer or in a convenient spot to easily change joysticks. It also means that when you're plugging in the adapters, I'm going to show you later, they don't have to stick directly out of the back of the computer. You might not have room for it, and it also might not be best for the connectors to be hard connected like that versus able to have a little bit of flexibility with the cable. Okay, let's move on to the Epyx. All right, so now we've got the Epyx plugged in. I did recenter the controller. You have to press this button and kind of move it in the opposite direction that it might be drifting in. That's how it works. And I got it pretty good here. It feels about the same as the Apple controller. Again, a little bit fast on the down, but that might be normal. The two buttons are quite comfy. They're pretty comfy if you're not mashing them. Like if you were playing a bullet hell game of some sort, you might get finger cramp. If any of you have used the Epyx Atari joysticks, you know what I'm talking about. It's no different with the Apple joystick. But again, there's a wide throw here, a long throw, so you can get very, very, very nuanced with the controls. You can move it just a little bit and he'll drift just a little bit here. There we go. Let's get some dudes. Oh, there you are. Whoop. I think I squished him. Hurry up! All right, good enough. Now let's try it without the automatic centering. We'll just let you off for now. So now we can see here that I can leave it where it is and I can make my way across the map. So this is interesting. Whoop! Oh, I must be in sortie 2 because now I've got the Blue Angels after me. I'll go with that. Oh. Okay, well, maybe the non-centering's better in theory than in practice. But you can see where it might help with some kinds of games to be able to well, basically just do this. Oh yeah, okay. Maybe I just suck at Choplifter. Okay, on to our third test. What we're going to do now is try some games that are maybe a little more better with the digital controllers than with these analog controllers. But we'll put that to the test. All right, here we are with Bruce Lee. Now this game will ask to center the joystick. Here we go. So hold joystick at rightmost position, press the fire button when done. Leftmost, topmost, and bottommost. And oof, that's terrible sound versus the Commodore 64 version. But what are you going to do? All right. Whoop, I'm playing. Okay. Whoop, up, up, up. I think this game pretty much only has one, there we go, one joystick button in use. I'm just going to leave those two down there for a moment. Come on. There we go. Okay, so how much do I have to move it for him to jump? A little more, a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. That much. So there is a pretty big dead spot here. You can see if I move the joystick around, nothing's happening. Or very little. Gotta move it quite far. And that dead spot only accentuates the difference in the 8 directions that this game operates in. You really have to move the joystick far to get Bruce to do what you want him to do. Not the greatest experience, as you can see here. At least he's doing what I want him to do. He's not jumping when I want him to run, or ducking when I want him to jump, or anything like that. Let's try out the Epyx and see what happens. All right, here we have the Epyx. Rightmost position, press the fire button. Leftmost position, topmost, bottommost. Player 1. Ooh, yeah, you really got to move this one a long way. See? Almost at the top. Oh, there we go. Moving, 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 moving. Whoop, there we go. Wowzers. Yeah, that's a long ways. It actually doesn't seem to really be the same in both directions, so I'm going to try this recentering thing here. We're going to hold it down. We're going to move a little bit to the left. I think that's how it works. Did that make it worse? Did that make it better? Did it not make a difference at all? Oh yeah, it made a little bit of a difference, but it's not great. This is not a great way to play this type of a game. I mean, is it playable? Yeah. Are you going to finish Bruce Lee with this controller? Probably not. You'd probably at some point be switching over to the keyboard. What is it? Yeah, open Apple to punch, and I don't remember the keys, but this is the type of game that takes too much finesse to get away with a joystick like this. If your mileage is different, let me know. Maybe you've mastered it with an analog joystick. All right, we're going to try one more set of games. Good old Lode Runner. We're going to try first with the Epyx. Again, this is a game that requires 2 buttons, on the Apple anyway, because one will fire in one direction and one will fire in the other. So you notice this one, I don't have to move near as far as Bruce Lee to get him to move. This is actually pretty decent. It feels quite good. It goes to show how much the game programming matters. It's not just about the controller. Whoop, but you see there, it's a little hard to get the angles right. Hey, you dropped something there, buddy. Oh, see, again, I think it might be, whoa, no. It might be a little uncalibrated, and it wants me to kind of go down there where I meant to go to the left. Let's see if the original Apple joystick's any better. Okay, here's our Apple joystick. Whoop. Again, pretty sensitive. Whoa, pretty sensitive. It's not bad, actually. This is pretty playable. I want you to drop. Come on. Oh, no, oh, no, wrong way. Oh, no. Okay, well, not bad. Not bad at all. So that rounds out the 3 games across our 2 authentic joysticks. Let's try out some IBM controllers. I've got a couple of IBM controllers here, and for that I'm going to use a product that I'm going to show you in a moment. All right, so what we have here is an adapter that I bought off eBay from a seller called Happy Automation. This is simply called the Apple II PC Joystick Adapter. You can see that we have a DB15 or a DE15, I guess, on one end, female, and a male DE9 on the other end. This is where our joystick for the IBM PC is going to plug into. This is going to plug into either the back of an Apple II, or I think I mentioned earlier that I use a serial, straight through serial cable extension to allow me to take some strain off the end of the adapter here and to route it around to the front of the Apple so I can plug and unplug joysticks easier. So these are the trim controls here to make some micro adjustments. I haven't really had to do that. I found that just the defaults seem to work fine, and then of course the games that will allow you to calibrate the joystick before playing take care of the rest. So that's this guy. We're going to plug it in, and we're going to bring out a couple of classic IBM PC joysticks from Gravis. All right, I had to actually zoom the camera out to get this bad boy in the picture. You might remember this Gravis joystick back in the day. It's got 3 buttons. This particular model allows you to select whether each of the buttons registers as button 1, 2, or 3. Here we go. Now right off the bat, I can tell that this controller allows for some very subtle movements. I'm not moving it much here. I like what I feel so far. I've got the buttons, this and this button are the same, and then this button should be shoot. I'm already feeling empowered with this controller. Come on, boys. Whoa, wrong way. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Good on you. Whoa. Yeah, I'm really impressed with this. Now, what you didn't see is that when I booted the Apple up with this joystick plugged in, I did have to power it off and on again a few times. It didn't register the joystick immediately. It didn't seem to find it, even though the red LED on the adapter did light up. Between the power draw from the adapter, whatever it may be, you can see we're a little bit not quite aligned there. Between that and the extension cable that I have and the controller itself, I can't say for certain that there might not be an electrical issue somewhere. Maybe we'll find out when we plug a different controller in. I'm not going to bother using this one with Lode Runner, because I think you get the sense that this is a wonderful analog controller. Okay, does this look familiar? The original Gravis GamePad. How is it going to play with Choplifter? The answer is not very well. I can't calibrate it, so you can see I'm moving up on the controller and it thinks I'm moving to the right, so that's not great. Not only that, but the buttons seem to both be doing the same thing. Now that might be because of these settings. So I'm just going to land here. The settings I'm talking about, there are two switches. One changes the control so that you can play it the opposite direction, like a left-handed controller, which I thought was brilliant. And the other changes the button layout. Which is which, you might ask? Okay, well I know what that one is. That's the control swapping. Button layout. Yeah, interestingly enough, I can't say for certain why, but the buttons don't seem to map properly. Comes as a bit of a shock to me. But all in all, just goes to show that one analog controller is not the same as another. This is not a great experience, but I think I know where this controller is going to shine. We're going to try it next. Hello again, Bruce. We're going to have to carefully calibrate this. Rightmost position, fire. Oh, it registered the fire button, that's good. Left, top, bottom. Hello world. Okay. Well, come on. Climb that vine, whatever that is. All right, it's not bad. I can tell you, it's real twitchy though. If you run to the right or the left and you barely go diagonal, you are going to either jump or crouch. You can see here I'm hop skipping along as I go, so very twitchy. And again, buttons don't seem to be doing what I would expect them to. I'm going to actually fiddle with the adapter here a bit and see if it might just be a bad connection. Well, it looks like whatever I did caused Bruce to faint. Run away! Uh-oh. No, I'm in trouble. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Come on. All right, well, is it a result of the controller? Is it a result of the adapter? Given that the adapter worked fine with both buttons and the big Gravis joystick, I'm led to believe that maybe, just maybe, since the last time I played it, the pins on this Gravis may have broken somewhere, and I'm missing a couple of fire buttons. Although very interesting again that it'd be both. Jury's out. If anything, it's just simply not very compatible, which is unfortunate because the principle was great. Now, with that in mind, if you want to use a gamepad with your Apple, you are not out of luck. There is an alternative. It's a different adapter, and I'm about to show you that next. Here we have it. This is the ByteBoosters adapter, which I picked up from Console 5. It's quite a bit more expensive than the other one that I picked up off eBay, but it does a whole lot more. I will say I'm surprised this doesn't also have the 15-pin IBM adapter. I would think they could have, I don't know, maybe made the board a bit bigger and fit it in somehow. But do you need it? Well, not really if you have one of these. So what is this? Here is our plug to go into the back of the Apple or into an extension cable. Here is a standard 9-pin Atari or Commodore, or very importantly, Sega joystick, gamepad, that is. Why is that important? Because that supports multiple buttons. And if you just plug a regular Atari controller in, you are going to be incompatible with a lot of games that require 2 buttons. And it's surprising how many do. Makes me wish that the Commodore 64 pioneered 2-button games, but it was the Apple that really did. So, not that there aren't 2-button Commodore games, but they're pretty rare, and on the Apple it was far more standard. So use a Sega controller if you have one. I don't happen to have one, so I haven't tested this out. I do have a Super Nintendo controller, and so I've tested out the Super Nintendo plug, and maybe that's what we'll use for Bruce Lee, and then we'll use a PlayStation 1 controller for Choplifter, since that's analog. Of course, you can use the digital controls with the PlayStation 1 or 2 joystick as well, but just for testing purposes, we'll use this one for the D-pad and this one for the analog stick. Okay, I'll plug it in and we'll boot something up. Here we have the Super Famicom controller, authentic one, plugged into the adapter, plugged into the Apple. Let's get our calibration screen here. Joystick at the rightmost position. Fire, left, fire. Come to think of it, it's interesting that the joystick button worked on the Gravis to calibrate it. I'm not going to think about it too hard. Incompatible. We'll leave it at that. And bottom. Much prefer the Commodore 64 sound effects. Oh, look at this. There we go. Oh, that feels great. I feel empowered. I feel like I might actually be able to beat this game with this controller. Oh, out of my way. Uh-oh, missed. All right, let's see if I can get these guys. Whoop. Okay, I could have done better there. I think it's maybe more that I'm not used to the Apple version of this. I'm a Commodore 64 Bruce Lee player, I'll fully admit. But this feels great. It really does. Now there are some different options with the with the controller. So you can see I've pressed, I think it was the select button, and now my shoulder button is actually what fires. Yeah, so the select button will change what your fire button is. And it cycles through, which I find interesting. And the start button, I don't know if the start, I'll have to look at the instructions. I don't know if the start button does anything terribly important on the Super Nintendo side of things, but it definitely, these buttons do things with the PlayStation controller. And we'll get into that soon. All right, I'm not going to bother to try this with Choplifter because I think I know the results. Choplifter really demands an analog stick. But this is absolutely wonderful. I do want to play Choplifter though, so let's play it with the PlayStation 1. Okay, Choplifter, here we go. First sortie. Alright, now notice I'm using the D-pad here. If I use the analog controls, nothing happens. Does it work well with the D-pad? It does, but it's a little sluggish. Buttons, yeah, buttons work great. One thing that disappoints me is with all these extra buttons, I wish there was an auto fire. There simply isn't. I don't know if that's a firmware update that can happen on that adapter or not, but man, do I wish there was an auto fire. Okay, I'm going to turn on the, now this particular PlayStation controller happens to have the analog button. I think not all of them did. So I'm going to press that. Still nothing. And oh, okay, that's still there. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the start button. There we go. Look at that. All right. Again, this feels great. Now the D-pad's not doing anything at this point. The right stick doesn't do anything at this point. If I press the select button, it's going to change my fire buttons to square and triangle instead of cross and O, or whatever they're called. We'll do that again. And now they're the shoulder buttons. Why do you want this? Well, especially with the lack of auto fire, if you find you're getting finger fatigue, you could always change it up a little bit and switch to your index fingers from your thumbs. Can't hurt, right? Now where is it? Oh, now it's the triggers at the base. And one more press, I think. Yeah, there we go. Now we're back. Okay, well, let's go. I can tell you this feels every bit as good as the Gravis controller, the original analog stick. I feel like I could take on the world. It feels so natural, but I mean, we've all been weaned on, whoops, sorry buddy, on gamepads for how long now, so there's no question that this is a very familiar way to play. You can see how easy that was. Whoa! Okay, enough of that. Yeah, so this feels absolutely great. You can see how responsive it is. Just wasn't getting that when I had it in the digital D-pad mode. And then we can just come in nicely. And there we go. Well, let's try this with a game that will make best use of this. Now, in case you were wondering how I'm playing these games, I've actually got the Total Replay version 5, I think it's version 5, on a prototype Fujinet that I'm using to boot these games off of. Works like a charm, just wanted to show you that here. So we're going to play Lode. Oh, I talked for too long. Hi guys. There we go. L-O-D-E. Okay, Lode Runner. Coyote's after you. I should still be in analog mode because that's where I was with the Choplifter. Yep. So I'm going to quickly change that by again pressing the... Oh no, oh no, oh no. Pressing the start button got me back to the D-pad. Let's try that again. I need a do-over. Okay, so that button is button 2, this is button 1. Oh. Oh no. I didn't say I was good at these games. Let's turn off that annoying red light. We don't need it to be on. Yeah, this feels absolutely wonderful. Oh, thank you. So, I'm using the PlayStation controller. This is a PlayStation 2, but a PlayStation 1 controller will work too. If you get the dual analog one, of course, you'll have the best of both worlds. So I'm using a PlayStation 2 controller in Choplifter with the analog mode. I'm using it in Lode Runner with the digital mode. It's really the best of both worlds. I would say that this is my choice for how to play games with that ByteBoosters adapter. Having said that, the Apple controller, the original Apple controller, holds a lot of nostalgia for me as well, as does the original Gravis stick from the IBM PC. So I feel like I've kind of got it made. I can use this to play most games, but if I am playing something that feels good with a flight stick, that 3-button Gravis joystick with the other adapter works like a charm. And the original Apple controller, and for that matter the Epyx controller as well, are great for the authenticity. All right, well that's that. I hope you enjoyed watching it. In summary, if you're looking for an option that's the most versatile, I highly recommend the PlayStation 1 with analog controls or PlayStation 2 controller along with this adapter. Again, you got your PlayStation, you got your Atari, Sega, you got your Super Nintendo on here. You can't get more versatile than this. Works super well. There's no joystick drift, analog, digital controls. It's kind of what I would recommend if you don't already have an Apple II controller such as this one. I enjoyed this for analog games more than I enjoyed the Epyx 500XJ just because of that joystick drift. I may crack the Epyx controller open and see if I can maybe clean it out on the inside, but the problem with that is that the sticker on top makes it very hard to crack those joysticks open, and I won't do it if I don't have to. Having said that, from an analog joystick perspective, I really enjoy this guy right here, the old Gravis, combined with this relatively less expensive eBay option for 15-pin to 9-pin controllers. At least for analog games, this was one of my first PC controllers I ever owned, so there's a lot of muscle memory there. It brings back a lot of memories, and the button configuration means you can really, in the absence of auto fire, you can really bash that button. It's a great micro switch controller. If you find these at a thrift store, highly recommend it. So that's it for how to add all sorts of different controllers to your Apple II. If you want to add Apple II controllers, or IBM controllers for that matter, to your PC, if you're more of an emulator, that's where these come in. And I'll be talking about these possibly in a future episode. So thanks so much for watching. Take care, and maybe we'll see you next time.
Wherever there's trouble, G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe, American hero. G.I.